Chirag, how are you assessing the entire situation? And firstly, for Maruti, because of the BS6 applicability, the kind of cost that they would have to undertake to actually upgrade, and of course, the phase out of diesel. I mean, what do you do with the diesel cars? Because you cannot even sell that inventory.
Yeah, so first of all, the impact of BS6 on diesel engine has been very well discussed and understood. But I think what needs to be seen is that over the last 5 years, in any ways, we are seeing a big shift towards petrol or rather away from diesel. If I recollect properly, in FY12, we were having a diesel share of almost in 50s at an industry level. Today, it has reduced to about 30-odd%. And the big shift has happened broadly for three reasons. Number one, obviously the fuel price disparity, which was at even 70% plus in 2012 and 13. Today it is in single digit between petrol and diesel disparity. And obviously the mileage has gone up for petrol and diesel both, but more so for petrol. And third thing, obviously there is so much negativity around diesel globally as well as in India. In fact, Delhi banning, let's say, 10-year-old diesel has also impacted the sentiments for diesel. So in any ways, we were seeing a big shift of consumer preference away from diesel towards petrol and alternate fuel like CNG. And plus, obviously, the upcoming BS6 regulations would have a further impact with respect to the cost economics becoming much more unviable for diesel, especially for the smaller car diesels. So to that extent, the Maruti's decision seems to be quite, let's say, from a commercial standpoint, seems to be quite sensible. Obviously, they would continue to offer bigger diesel engines in the bigger cars like the Brezza and Ciaz. In fact, in Ciaz, they have recently introduced their own in-house 1.5 liter diesel engine. So that should continue. But yeah, in case of majority of the small car portfolio, the demand should shift towards petrol and alternate fuel, something that we have already seen over the last 4-5 years that will further accelerate under BS6.
Right. Chirag, what exactly is the cost difference of the cars sub 1500cc versus the ones above it? Why won't diesel engines which are less than 1.5 liters be viable in cars?
So the cost difference today between petrol and diesel engines are roughly 150,000 rupees. Under BS6, the cost differential would widen up to 200 to 250,000 rupees. At that price point, a lot of customers may not feel viable to buy a diesel car, especially when majority of the customers, the annual monthly running is less than say 2000 kilometers or even less than 1500 kilometers. So to pay an upfront 250,000 rupees premium for diesel just for that extra mileage, for many customers that may not make sense, and therefore a lot of small car customers where the annual running is not, let's say, more than 10-12,000 kilometers, they might shift towards petrol. There would be a certain segment of, let's say, the taxi guys who would still continue to prefer diesel, and probably for the bigger cars, something beyond 1.5 or 2 million price point, where the cost differential in terms of percentage is not that high as something that we are seeing in case of small cars. So that segment would may continue to remain in favor of diesel, both from the cost economics perspective, were still remaining viable. And second, obviously, the performance that diesel offers, especially with respect to the initial torque, and especially in the higher end SUVs. So I think these are broadly the factors why the bigger diesel engines will continue to remain in the market, but the smaller diesel engines definitely will become very unviable.